So one time, when I was a relatively new married man, a younger man, living in the of heaven, I went out after the Shacharis, take a bus into Geula to the college that I was learning in, like every day. I'm a particular spacey guy, and I'm thinking about whatever I'm thinking about. And at a certain point, I noticed there's nobody else by the bus stop. There's nobody else in the street, B'chlal. Ghost town. I'm not joking. Not only that, but it's like a long time, and no bus passed in either direction, and there are no cars on the street. It took me like 40 minutes, but you can't pull anything past me. I eventually got it, right? So I didn't know what's going on, right? Finally, I see somebody, and he looks at me. I guess, as you look at a crazy person, he says, "You don't know?" I said, "No." He said, "There's a war going on here. There's not going to be any buses today. Everyone got called up to be drafted." It was 1981 or 82, and it was the first Lebanon War. They didn't call it the first Lebanon War until there was a second one. At that time, they just called it the Lebanon War. What did they know? So yeah. It's the same thing about the First World War, but that's not something we should joke about. But anyway, first time I had to fight my wife, I said, it's the First World War. I knew there was going to be another. But anyway, seriously, that's on tape. Now, the shot is like this. So I learned from there a very terrible thing, that even though my Rebbe, when I was in Long Beach, before he became Yeshiva in Bell Harbor, Levi Dicker Zechatzadik B'Vracha, he once told us, a Bacher in Yeshiva doesn't have to know the news and read the newspaper. You shouldn't be busy with that. He should be kol kulei in the sugya. That was then and there. I don't know what he would say now. I don't know. He says, but you know, people who are married and have families participating in the world, their avada could read the newspaper, and I didn't understand why. So even after I got married and had a family, I didn't read a newspaper until I didn't miss the boat, but I missed the bus, right? So since then, I started listening to the news. And like many things you do, it becomes a habit and even controls you. Now, in this country, there's always something going on. I don't know if that's a good thing. So I knew the news before Shabbos, and I knew what's going on in Gaza, and this and that. So like Matzah Shabbos, I very much want to hear the news, what happened over Shabbos. And things do happen here. So my radio caught a station that's not a Haredi station. And something caught my ear. So I stopped and I listened. That's dangerous, but it happened. I stopped and listened. Fascinating thing. And a lady is describing, I don't know the whole picture because I caught it in the middle. A lady is describing how she is a non-believer. I don't know if she's Jewish, but and she's skeptical, and she her whole life only believes what she can see. Then she describes ba'arichas what I'm not going to describe to you with the length that but she describes a clear situation where she had hallucinations in her brain, a near-death situation. She felt, maybe when she woke up in the morning, that she was halfway in the other world, and all sorts of death kind of things. And a week later, she got the news that her brother had died at that time. At that time that she was going through that she was Meirich, very detailed, but she was really going through an encounter with the Malach HaMavis. She was becoming an Avela. Because one of her close kroivim was dying. So she felt it. In another place, there was in modern times, it took 7 days till the word got back to her. That's how close she was with her brother, right? But she felt it. So she saw that there's something going on. No, the end of the story is not that she became from, not at all. But it's a convention of people trying to put together all this kind of strange information. Let me tell you another thing they said. They said that scientists trying to figure out how thought gets communicated. Who says thought gets communicated? They have proof that thought gets communicated. This is such a kind of thing also. The person is having a sensation that someone in his family is dying. Because I'll record such things about twins, I don't know about regular people. So they took a certain amount of cells, I don't know, a cell is a very, very minute thing, I don't know what it means, out of a person, and they moved it 40 miles away, but they kept it alive in those dishes, I forget what they're called. And they kept the cells alive somehow or other. And then 40 miles away, the person who they took the cells from, they showed them imagery that should get them different emotions, but get them emotional. And whatever electricity goes on in a cell that they can measure, modern science can measure that. When a person is having emotions, the detached cells 40 miles away out of his body were having the same exact electrical reactions. Proof that there's some sort of kesha. This is scientific. We didn't speak religion here. Gemara in Daf Yud Aleph, bottom of Dom Aleph, top of Dom Beis, in Baba Basra. What's Yeshiva learning? From where? With the first parak, from the beginning. The Gemara in Baba Basra Yud Aleph says that Chochmah is adif than Nevuah. Chochmah is even stronger than Nevuah. I hope I'm quoting it correctly. It says that there could be something that nobody in Beis Medrash has the teretz to. And one Chacham works on the pshat and works on the sugya. It's a big Chacham. And then he brings down, I killed the whole book, but he says the teretz. In other Batei Midrashim, even simple people can now figure out the teretz. Chachmas aduf min nevuah. And it's because that slip of the tongue that I said. The Gemara documents, and this is a fact, this happens all the time. You know, a Rosh Yeshiva many, many times works many hours on a sugya. Late at night, the next day he has to say a shir, because he had a bomb kasha that mamish, no one's speaking about and no one's answering and he can't figure it out. And he works till he's very, very excited he has the teretz. Comes in the next day, and not the best bach in yeshiva, but not the worst bach in yeshiva, a Pashta Yossi Gold. Do I got the first name right? A Pashta Yossi Gold says, that's the kasha, Rebbe. Why can't you just say in the beginning of shir? The Rebbe very dramatically says, and he, with all the build up, you know, maybe he has like a tall, big yarmulke. I don't want to go there. And with all the build up, and he says, and he asks the kasha, and the Pashta Yossi Gold calls out, modestly, because that's like a big kasha, he says, maybe you could just say like this, that. I worked 10 hours after learning 50 more years than you to get there. Like, how did you just do that? Right? And based on that Gemara, the Svara explains, it's very pashut now, because his Rebbe brought down the Svara and he's a Talmud. The Svara is right there. That means that it's easier for me and you to learn. It's not easy to learn. It's not easy to focus. It's not easy to sit down. It's not easy to concentrate. It's not easy to get all sorts of garbage out of your brain while you're thinking and learning. Not to get distracted. All these steps and many, many more is very, very hard. Not to mention that the actual subject is very advanced and difficult. Jews are smart people, and the Torah is even smarter. But the fact that there's a Reb Chaim Kanievsky in our generation, or 10,000, I'm just making a number, maybe it's much, much more, 50,000 people in this little city, right, sitting in Taka learning, each one according to his level, brings down. Science will soon discover that this is a physical thing, not a religious thing. I started with those stories because science is wondering about what we know to be Metzias already a long time ago. We can't explain it, electricity, impulses, this. They're not interested in why, they're interested in what. We're only interested in the why. But the why we know. This happens that, I want to explain to you something, Rabbi Say. That when you are davening to the Eibishter, V'taher libeinu la'avdecha be'emes. Eibishter, maybe I don't deserve it, but you opened the doors of tshuva, and you said that I could do tshuva, so I'm begging you, help me get the garbage that I took in willingly into my heart, help me to get it out of my heart. When you dive into the Eibishter, really, really focused, sometimes with tears, but with real emotion, not muttering, mumbling the words as a habit. You're bringing down not just to yourself a certain amount of Torah, but to those who are close to you, to those who are in the same area as you. And science will soon have that that's such a physical thing. But it's also very scary because Nefesh Chaim teaches us that the machshava of a Jew is far more powerful than even the maisim of a goy. That means when goyim do terribly cruel things, terrible, terrible things, and I'm going to give a real example. And a Jew doesn't do anything bad, but he just has a bad machshava, which is worse. So Nefesh Chaim Yishar Aleph, Rabbi Chaim Volozhiner says, one of the scariest things you could ever hear in your life. Nefesh Chaim says that more than Titus did, I don't want to get graphic what Titus did, but he was part of the Churban Beis HaMikdash. He did something very, very graphic. I'm not in the mood with this crowd to get into that. But he went into the Mokum Mizbeach and he did a big nevolah. Right? It's a very big insult to Hashem. A Ma'aseh Tumah on the Mokum Mizbeach. Beis HaMikdash was in the middle of being destroyed. It was still standing. And he did such a terrible defamation. Zogt Reb Chaim Volozhiner, if Chas v'Shalom, a Pashta Yid has a thought, a hirur of niyuf, of znus, it causes much more damage in the kedusha of the world and all of its inhabitants and all the olamos than what that guy did on the Mizbeach in the Mokum HaMikdash. Because our machshavas are more attached and hooked up and connected than their maisim, even when it's in the Beis HaMikdash. Just like if Reb Chaim Kanievsky, so the Gesundheit, harvest and learning. Take Reb Chaim Kanievsky, you can take yourself. Not that it's comparison, but you're harvesting and learning, really pushing yourself. Even it's just to understand what's the kasha of Taisvis, not any highfalutin fancy tifazach that the G'dalei Adar are learning. But Pashta Taisvis, what's his kasha? What's bothering him? But you're working and you're pushing, your brain is totally focused on it. We discussed how you're bringing, and Talmud Torah is bigger than all the mitzvahs. Talmud Torah connected kulam. You're bringing down fantastic kedusha to the world. And one of the many nafkaminas of the kedusha you're bringing down is that Yossi Gold, who's sitting in the same base marriage, could go ask a kasha that's a little bit taller than he is. It's actually a lot taller than he is. The kasha is way past his grade level, or whatever, pay grade, or whatever special. But how do you come to such a kasha? Because you're hard learning, and it's bringing down Siyat Shmai and learning. Another guy in the base medrash, said, okay, I've been learning too long, 17 minutes straight. I mean, it's too much, right? So he wanted to close the go out for a break. You know, like in Sukkah, there's like Chamsa, Meruba, Mitzilsa. I see like you guys got deep into this man, and Yeshiva held, you can't handle the pressure, so you go easy and you go to America for a week. Deep into this man, it's the first week. What's going on in this place? Right? 11 guys per second say that, but they were learning. They were learning. Mamish learning. Mamish learning. I know, because I understood stuff that was higher than my pay grade. but anyway, seriously, right? A person harvest learning. So the guy 2 seats over from him. First of all, even on a pshat level, not with heebie-jeebies. We're discussing heebie-jeebies, but even on a pshat level, says if Storch is sitting there and steiging away, I got the right name, right? So why should I pick myself up and go for a break after 17 minutes? If he's doing it, I can also do it, right? So you stay longer. So first of all, the etzem Storch learning is a chizik for every guy in Beis Medrash. God forbid, in a case where Storch picks himself up and goes out, is a rifkin in God's Beis Medrash. But that's in a setting an example kind of thing. We don't like to hear that from our Apelbaum and our parents, to set a good example, even though you do, but we don't like to hear it, right? But I'm explaining to you, even on a metaphysical level, the fact that he's learning stark, it helps you get some garbage out of your brain. Now, I'll tell you the truth, I have an ugly confession to make. I did learn in Lakewood when they had one basement. That wasn't ugly confession. We'll get there. It gets much, I don't know if you can imagine, but it gets much uglier than that. Even that, right? Listen, I'll tell you when I'm making a joke, okay? You don't decide for yourselves, okay? In those days, 400 guys sat in Beis Medrash, basically. It was made for 400 guys. The original Beis Medrash. Now they have many Bate Midrashim, the whole campus. Baruch Hashem, the Olam HaTorah got a lot bigger. So I've learned in big Bate Medrash. I've learned in regular yeshivas with 200 and 250 guys till I got older, right? But most of my learning all the years was taka in small Bate Medrash. Small Chaylim, small Bate Medrash. Okay, one of them, for 10 years I learned together with one in the same Beis Medrash with one of the Gedolei Ador. So you could theoretically say that learning in the office of Chaim Kanievsky or of Leib Steinman or of Lezer Shach has that sort of megadose of bringing Torah down, just as if you're sitting in a Beis Medrash with hundreds of people. But the ugly confession is, a conclusion of some of the things that we're discussing would seem to indicate that l'chayra there is a value to take into consideration to sit and learn in a room with 1,000 people. Should l'chayra be easier to learn metaphysically in ruchnius? There should be less yetzer hara. According to this, it should be easier to grasp the svaras. I'm not advocating. I didn't for myself do that. I learned where it was comfortable for me to learn, where I had rabbeim, where I had people I could speak to learning, etc. But I'm just saying this. Yeah, all of these things are ways of me trying to give over to you. Torah is real and solid, like a concrete wall. You have a thought, it's real and solid. It's not just fleeting. It's not just nothing. Let me tell you a little silly story. Many decades ago, almost 50 years ago, close to 50 years ago, I went to visit a yeshiva that I had once learned in and left. And the Rosh Yeshiva, there were two Rosh Yeshivas, one's not alive, one's still alive, he should be alive in the Zuntal, right? Both Gedolei Ador. People who are considered Gedolei Ador, they are. Right? The Rosh Yeshiva was very, very cold to me. That not that I expected him to be like, today everyone's fuzzy and huggy and cozy and cuddly. Right? It wasn't like that here century ago. They didn't invent that yet. At least not in our religion. Right? But like I was getting really, really bad vibes and attitude. And then on Sunday, he actually called me in and gave it to me over the head. I didn't know what he was talking about. I don't want to tell you the whole story. Different time maybe, but not in this forum and not with that thing looking at me. Right? But the fact of the matter is that and it disturbed me greatly, and I had bizyonis barabim, and at the time it was a very, very big issue. In simple English, someone pulled a prank. My name is Elya. Someone in the yeshiva pulled a prank on one of the English teachers, from a person, and he said he's Elya Levin. On the phone, he pulled a phone prank, but figured Elya Levin can't get in trouble, he's not in yeshiva. Heard he's coming back for Shabbos. So I could prank this Rebbe, a high school kid. I could prank this guy, and nobody will get in trouble. And he didn't show me that Elya Levin should get in trouble either. Just then is when they invented the recording machine on the messages. It was shortly after Fred Flintstone had just died. They invented the voice messaging on the thing. So the yeshivas had a recording of the alleged Elya Levin pranking this guy. Now, of course, they were so close to me that with 200 people in that yeshiva, they were able to discern that it's my voice. Play it for me, I know that it's not my voice, so I'll figure out which guy in the class it is, right? But it wasn't that democratic in those days. When I explained that to them, they didn't find it so, whatever. It's an interesting story, but it's not for now. But at the time, it was devastating to me. That two Gedolei Ador should be chayshid me b'ksheir. And the way they treated me was nothing less than disgusting. According to them, I was a guilty person. And they thought they had evidence. We're not talking here about Dan Lekavskos. That's a different shmuez. I'm talking about that decades went by. Decades. A decade, for those of you who dropped out early on in high school, is 10 years. Like 20, 30 years went by. And I want to impress you, so it's a really long time. I was a totally different stage in life. And someone who I'd seen in the interim tens, if not hundreds of times, was Elsman. And he sees me and he comes over to me and he's not himself. And he says to me, and he gives me his hand and it's like cold and sweaty when it shouldn't be. And he says to me, Elya, I have to tell you something. Remember many years ago what happened in that yeshiva, that Shabbos that you came? I was the guy who did it. I got you into trouble. And I never asked you mechila. And every single Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, I'm scared for my life. I never asked you mechila. And I couldn't get up enough guts. And now, decades later, right? He says, it spiraled out of control. I didn't know the Rosh Yeshiva were going to react like that. I didn't know they were going to do that to you. And when it spiraled so out of control, I couldn't own up to it anymore, because then I'd really get in trouble, twice as bad as you. And I was in their yeshiva. You weren't even in their yeshiva. So I couldn't. So I wound up mamish messing you over when I never meant to. I should have chopped that it'll do it. I didn't know. I did a stupid thing. I was a high school kid. So I told him, oh, stop. It's nothing today. It's nothing. It's gone. He says, don't tell me all this. Say, I am moichel you. The poor guy was suffering. Now the truth is, it did like open up. I'm human. It opened up a little box in my heart that had long been forgotten. Right? When I was moichel him, he was mamish in pain. Then I took a 40-minute walk later, thinking about it and everything. You know. Why am I telling you this? There's a lot in the story, and there's a lot that I didn't say, and it's not for now. And it could be we're coming to an end. I don't know when I'm supposed to stop here. But why I'm telling you is about a fascinating thing. This is one of millions of examples that something that right now today seems like it's so much the most important thing in your life. It's your favorite thing, or it's the thing you hate the most, or it's the thing that you feel is your biggest enemy or disturbing you the most. In those few weeks, it's a real incident. It's not stam. I once told it over to a guy who today is known as a professional, well-known educator who has opinions about everything when I don't know exactly. I don't know. I wouldn't go in for anything really. But we once stuck on a plane together for many hours. So if he gets the hold of this tape, he'll chop, right? But he'll laugh after he's finished being insulted. And I won't ask him mechila. So he told me, wow, you must be, we know each other. He said, you must be a really strong person. I said, why do you say that? He said, anybody else would have gone off the derech. Two gedolei hadar being chayshit you b'ksherim. I said, when I grew up, we weren't looking for excuses to go off the derech. Do you get the implications of what I just said? Bad things are allowed to happen to the person. That's not an exemption to go off the derech. What does one thing have to do with the other? I don't understand. What, God isn't there because humans make mistakes and do nasty things? Well, what's one thing have to do with the other? Who wants to go off the derech? What's the gain? What's the benefit? Like, I don't understand it. But I guess he does. He's a very big educator. Right? But what, again, even why I'm telling you that side story of the story is to tell you how traumatic it is for a 15, 16-year-old to be in the situation. My mother, I'm telling you, she's in and out. She has good days and bad days. I bet you if I told her this story, she'd still remember her pain, that how do you treat my son like that when he was innocent? Her pain. Now, 50 years later, when she's like in and out on a good day, I should try it. No, it's healthy for her to reconnect, even though it might aggravate us, maybe I shouldn't. Right? Why am I telling you this? Because today it's nothing to me. Not just today, 20 years ago when he came to me, it was nothing to me. He opened it up, so I thought about it and thought about all the ramifications. Right? But something that's so important to you, sometimes a year later, it's nothing. There's the expression in Yiddish, afayara geshnei. It's as exciting and newsworthy as last year's blizzard. Last year's blizzard is not negeya. It's just not negeya. You want to know something? Sometimes the big snowstorm, 2 days later, it's not negeya. The hurricane that they talked about 3 weeks ago, never, the people who suffered for them it's still negeya. But like everybody, what's happening in Carolina? Place, Scott, you don't even remember that there was a hurricane in Carolina. Why should you? Right? So in your life also, a lot of things that you think are very important, and let me be concrete. Let me give you a real example. this and this is going on during night Seder tomorrow night. I don't know, a concert, a friend of yours is coming back from America, I don't know, there's 20 million things that the Yetzer Hara will provide you tomorrow night and night Seder, every single day, during every single Seder. And it's very important to you. What do you mean? He's my best friend, he's coming back, I have to go to see him. We can't, there's not enough time outside Seder. Yeah, you're doing night Seder, right? I want to go to see him. And I still remember 35 years later how certain friends came to visit me, not during Seder, when I came back once there. So yeah, it's meaningful. Friendship is a very important thing. But what you think is important enough to miss night Seder, or to miss Seder, or to miss Shacharis, or to miss whatever it is, 20 minutes later, a week later, certainly 10 years later, certainly 70 years later, 50 years later, it's so meaningless to you. That's what I miss night Seder for. But night Seder lasts forever. Every memory of Rava lasts taka forever. It's 100% real. Another, the Vilna Goyen. Could you imagine the schar of the Vilna Goyen's mother? I'm not talking about the Vilna Goyen, I'm talking about his mother. The schar of the Vilna Goyen's mother. She obviously did something right, and she obviously did nothing wrong. Meaning, I don't mean in her whole life. Our parents are human. Some of us have exaggerated tinus on our parents, which is exaggerated. Because I'm a parent, not a child. I'm also a child, but I'm much more of a parent. They only have 2 parents and have 14 children. So I'm much more of a parent than I have a child, right? So I think it's exaggerated, all the demands that children have on their parents. But anyway, right? But a parent, right, in accumulating, I have like something, I have to do the cheshbon once. I have something like 200 accumulated years of parenting. If you take each kid and you divide it by 20, 14 times 20, it's a nice amount. We're not up to there because not all of them are 20, right? So I have like roughly 200 years of parenting. You think I never made a mistake? You think I ever did anything right? Let's start the other way, right? Of course I made mistakes. Of course I made mistakes. Did it veer the course